become live? Okay, good. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. And all the other platforms. Great. All right. Welcome, everyone, to today's live session. If you can hear me and see me, great. Please type USA or just put in the emoji of the US flag. We have exciting topics, as always, to discuss. Various topics, exciting topics across US immigration, concerning different areas of US immigration. So please type USA or use the emoji of the US flag. If you can see me and hear me, great. All right, we're going to get started. I think we can start with the biometrics update. We can start with that. But I still want you guys to type in USA if you can hear me and see me. That can give me the signal to go forward. I don't want to talk to myself here. So please, if you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, type in so that I can confirm that all is well. Okay, great. I'm seeing some signals on YouTube and LinkedIn. I want to see on Instagram and TikTok as well. If you guys can see me and hear me well, please. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with the, some latest updates. We'll go over them. We'll talk about some reliefs available in immigration court and when you're in deportation proceedings. We might not be able to go deeply into it, but we'll do an overview. So please stick with us. Okay. So this was about last week, December 5th. Was that last week? I believe so. USCIS has updated its policy on biometrics, and at the same time, it gave a caveat. So we're going to discuss that momentarily. Now, this year has been one of the years that USCIS has released back-to-back policy alerts. Every week, they are releasing about 2 or 3 or 1 policy alerts that has to do with immigration. There's some change, or there's some clarification, or there's some supersession where they're giving some guidance which will supersede prior guidance, or they're implementing with immediate effect. Every week it's been a really, really interesting year full of policy updates, and we've tried to stay up to date with all of them. So this update is on biometrics for detainees, people who are detained, immigrants who are detained, either in immigration detention or detention that is not based on their immigration status, perhaps based on a criminal issue that they've gotten and they're in detention as a result of the criminal offense they committed. So let's look at this. So USCIS last week updated its policy manual. What is saying pretty much is that they are no longer going to be doing biometrics for people who are detained. Whether you are detained by immigration or you're not detained by immigration, so long as you're detained, they cannot do your biometrics for you. Biometrics are currently a threefold process. When you go to an application support center, that's what these biometrics, where you do the immigration biometrics, they're called ASC center. And when you go there, you are going to be doing a threefold process, or you'll go through a threefold process. The first thing you're going to be doing would be, or one of the things you'll be doing will be, you take your fingerprints, you take your eyeball picture, and then you give them your signature. Now, if you are applying for any U.S. immigration benefit, USCIS needs your biometrics to be able to issue you with a benefit. Whether it's a green card, citizenship, a work permit. And the biometrics is a process which helps them to determine whether somebody has a criminal background or not, or whatever type of background, or they have some type of fraud on their record or not. The background just helps them, the biometrics helps them to review your background to determine whether you're somebody they want to issue an immigration benefit to. Okay, so the biometrics is a fundamental or important part of your immigration application. And USCIS is just saying that, look, if you are detained, then we're not going to come do your biometrics unless you are in removal proceedings. You've been sent to immigration court and you have a pending application filed with immigration court. So if you are detained, maybe you came in on a B2 visa, you've overstayed your visa, and then you are arrested for DUI, maybe DUI, and you hit somebody and the person unfortunately got hurt. Maybe you're detained. They found out that, oh, she doesn't even have status. Anyway, you are detained for criminal reasons, and perhaps you've also been placed in removal proceedings. USCIS is saying that in that case, they will take your biometrics because you are detained and you are in removal proceedings, and if you have an application pending. So let's say after you've been sent to immigration court, let's say you had an asylum case pending when you got detained. Because you are in removal proceedings and you have a pending asylum application, then DHS will take your biometrics even though you are detained. For all other cases, if you are not in removal proceedings and you don't have a pending application in immigration courts, which is EOIR, then they will not take your biometrics. They're saying this is to prevent frivolous or, just people just filing fake claims or silly claims or claims that are not based or grounded in law. USCIS will not approve a request to collect biometrics from immigrants or people who are detained in any jail. They don't want the extra hassle. You are in a detention facility, you have an immigration application pending with USCIS, maybe a green card application. They're not going to bother with you. They will not come and do your biometrics. And they have also removed guidance that talks about the fact that there's no intra-departmental agreement between USCIS and ICE regarding collecting biometrics for immigrants who are in custody. So you should not expect that if you're in ICE custody, then there's some type of intra-departmental agreement that will say that, okay, ICE can take your biometrics and bring it to them. They're not going to do that. It sounds like for them it's a bother. They're not going to worry themselves with such additional steps or headaches. So if you are detained with ICE, unless you have a case pending with immigration court and you have been placed in removal proceedings, they will not take your biometrics. Now they issue a reminder. The biometrics, as I mentioned to you guys, is a fundamental part of your immigration application. If you file a green card application, you'll be required to go to an application support center, and you are going to give your information to them, your signature. Let me share this. Did I share this already? Let's see. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. You're going to be giving them your you're going to be given. There was another policy memo I had highlighted. I don't think I included it, but it tells you what the biometrics are. Let me see if I can share it very quickly, then we can move on to our next topic. I think this is it. Okay. Yeah, that's it. There was an announcement and then a policy memo. I'm sorry, a policy alert about that announcement. I found it here. So let me just quickly share it. And then we can, let me see which one is this. No, not this one. Let's take this off and get this away. Please, as usual, you can drop your questions. We'll be answering a few of them once we are done. Okay, there you go. This is a policy alert. It tells us what biometrics are. Now look at this. It says that, and yes, this was the policy alert issued on December 5th, 2025. It talks about the fact that USCIS conducts security and background checks on persons and organizations if you're seeking an immigration benefit or other requests. These checks are essential because they want to make sure that if you are somebody that poses a risk to national security or public safety, or you are somebody that has some fraud in your record, they will detect you or they'll figure it out. Now, if you are an immigrant, or when a person is requesting an immigration benefit from USCIS, this could be an immigrant, it could be a petitioner, US citizen, a beneficiary, derivative, a sponsor. Now, remember, now they are looking at taking the fingerprints and biometrics from even sponsors and US citizens. You may be required to attend an application support center, that's the ASC biometric service appointment, because they want to identify verify your identity. Don't tell me I was going to say identify your verifity. So they want to verify your identity. That's identity verification. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and you can provide the biometrics needed to conduct security and background checks. If you don't attend your ASC appointment and you did not reschedule or let them know that there's maybe you have an emergency, then your underlying application, green card, work permit, it's considered abandoned. And when it's considered abandoned, then they will deny it based on abandonment, meaning you don't want the application anymore. That's why you didn't attend your biometrics. Please remember that USCIS says that they are not going to allow USCIS contractors or staff to travel to jails, prisons, non-DHS centers to be collecting people's biometrics. They're not going to be doing that job anymore. So there's no current agreement between USCIS and ICE, where ICE will now collect biometrics from people who are detained but who have cases pending with USCIS. If you don't have removal proceedings and you don't have a pending immigration application in court, they are not going to bother to take your biometrics if you are detained. All right. Okay, so now I can take this off. Now let's go back to, let me show you guys. Let's go back here. If you go back to the USCIS, the release announcement on their website, the last bullet that I'm showing you here, it affirms that USCIS will generally continue to deny immigration benefits requests based on abandonment for aliens or immigrants who fail to attend their application support center biometric services appointment. Biometrics is a fundamental part of your immigration application. It's not a suggestion. It's not a date you can decline. It's not a nice to have. It's actually a must have that will help your immigration application to process smoothly. Without that, they're not going to approve your case for you. So just make sure that if you have any emergency and you want to reschedule, you do that ahead of time and you do that properly. There's a proper way to request a rescheduling. Usually it will be on the biometrics appointments. If you want to reschedule, you need help with that, make sure you contact us as much as possible. Attend earlier somewhere in the middle of the year, we realized that USCIS was denying applications, even where they had rescheduled people. So you want to be careful. Unless it's a matter of life and death, please do not skip your biometrics appointment. All right. Now let's go on to, there was this very lovely article by the NPR, just the year in review of some of the things that have happened. I want to share that with you guys momentarily, but I just want us to go over some reliefs. If you are in immigration court, some of the reliefs or some of the deportation defenses you can use. This is a 2004 fact sheet from the EUIR, but it's still very, very helpful. If you're in immigration court, it means that you are, the judge is going to deport you if you don't have any defense against your deportation. The first type of relief is called a discretionary relief. There are some discretionary reliefs like a voluntary departure. Voluntary departure is quite common, where someone can be granted it by an immigration judge. It means that you will not be deported. Ordered deported. When you're ordered deported, the government is the one that buys your ticket or arranges your deportation, your flight back to your home country. If you do a voluntary departure, it means you say, look, I'll go by myself. Don't push me out. Don't push me out. I'll leave by myself. I will walk out on my own. I don't need to be dragged out. And USCIS, immigration courts can let you buy your ticket and you can leave within the stipulated time. But it's a discretionary relief and it has to be approved by an immigration judge. You have your own personal expense, you return to your home country or another country if you can secure entry there. If you are granted voluntary departure, if you don't, so usually the judge could give you a timeline, maybe 120 days, it can be 60 days within which you have to leave the US. If you don't leave within the timeline that was specified by the judge, then you overstay, then your voluntary departure now becomes a deportation order. And if you continue to stay here, you will be barred from applying for anything for 10 years. You have a 10-year period of ineligibility for other forms of relief. Sometimes the judge can set a shorter deadline, even when you're granted voluntary departure. He can give you not necessarily 120 days. He can give you a shorter deadline. Pre-completion voluntary departure is usually 120 days. Post-completion voluntary departure is usually 60 days. Those granted voluntary departure at the conclusion of removal proceedings, within 60 days, they have to leave. You don't leave, then it's, you have a 10-year bar, you cannot apply for any immigration benefits. Now, cancellation of removal is another type of relief in immigration court. It's a discretionary relief, and it's available to both green card holders and people who are not green card holders. Okay, if you are doing a cancellation of removal, it means there's a way to cancel your deportation, and you have to show certain factors apply to you. For green card holders or lawful permanent residents, and this is one thing I'll tell you, some people think that, if I'm a green card holder, I'm safe. But I think this year, many people have learned that being a green card holder, it doesn't mean you are safe. Even US citizen doesn't mean you're safe. Excuse me. So for green card holders, you can do something that can make you deportable or removable, and you can be placed in removal proceedings and deported. So if you are a green card holder and you are placed in removal proceedings, and we did this the last time, we discussed the kind of things that can make you deportable. Domestic violence. As a green card holder, you slap your wife for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a deportable offense right there. Domestic violence. Some certain drug-related offenses, committing certain, you violate your temporary protective order. There's a lot of things, like certain crimes, an aggravated felony. You commit certain crimes, you become deportable. So if you do some of these things and you become deportable, you're sent to immigration court. You have to show these three things for you to be granted cancellation of removal as a green card holder. You should show that you've been a lawful permanent resident for at least 5 years. You have continuously lived in the US for at least 7 years after you were admitted as a green card holder, and you have not been convicted of an aggravated felony. Okay. An aggravated felony, can it be something like murder? Okay, just an aggravated felony. It's very serious offenses. Now, moving on, cancellation of removal also exists for people who are not green card holders. If you are not a green card holder, you can have cancellation of removal. You are taken to immigration court and you can have the judge cancel your deportation. You have to show 4 things. Number 1, you should show that you've been continuously present for at least 10 years. Number 2, you must show you're a person of good moral character during your 10-year period. Number 3, you should not have been convicted of an offense that will make you deportable. And number 4, you must show that your removal or deportation would cause exceptional and extremely unusual hardship to your immediate family members, such as your US citizen spouse, parent, or child, or your green card holder spouse, parent, or child. This is what people talk about, the 10-year rule. Like, is it true that if you've been here for 10 years, you can get a green card? This is where a lot of those questions in the rumors stem from. There is cancellation of removal but you have to show these 4 things. That's why I always say, as an immigrant, it's always great to live a good life, because the day, to the best of our ability, it's not easy to always be on the right side of the law, but if you make effort, I guess it's not too bad. The day there's a problem, they will be looking at your record, and then they'll determine whether you're a person of good moral character, you don't have any offense that makes you deportable. So these are things you want to note. You guys, the third relief from deportation is asylum. Generally, you must demonstrate an inability to go back to your home country because of past persecution or a well-founded fear of future persecution. So based on 2 things, either you're afraid of something that happened in the past, or you have a well-founded fear of something that could happen in the future to you. And this fear is not because, oh, I'm just afraid of my own shadow, or you're afraid of poverty or any other thing. It has to be based on your race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or your political opinion. If you, for example, come within 1 year, you don't apply for asylum, it may be difficult to qualify. The exceptions that apply. You should not be convicted of an aggravated felony. Okay. Adjustment of status, the green card application. Then we have more to go. We can probably continue the reliefs next week. We don't have too much time. So, adjustments of status is when you're applying for a green card inside the United States. We'll continue, hopefully next week, we'll continue with the reliefs. Okay, now let me share my screen here and let's talk about the article, an NPR article. I found it good. It was quite good. It just gives a good summary of what's been going on so far. This was written by Ximena Bastillo, and it's entitled "How Trump is Remaking One Agency to Aid His Deportation Push." Published on December 10th, 2025. Okay. Now, you guys know that pretty much USCIS, everybody's complaining that many people are complaining that USCIS has been turned into an enforcement agency rather than an adjudications agency. Instead of them processing green cards, now they've become a policing arm. So USCIS is one of the 3 branches of the Department of Homeland Security that deals with immigration. We have USCIS, CBP, and we have ICE. USCIS does affirmative immigration applications. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they do interior enforcement of immigration. And then CBP, Customs and Border Protection, they do border enforcement. Okay. So USCIS focuses usually on asylum, green card, citizenship, work visa, parole, just work permits. Since January, administration officials have taken an axe to that traditional mission by encouraging early retirements. So many people have retired from the agency, shattering collective bargaining agreements of the workers, and they've drastically cut back on programs that help legal immigration. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Joseph Edlo said that. All right, let's go on. The efforts come as President Trump seeks to curb illegal immigration, but also reduce legal ways to get to the US and stay here, especially for certain nationalities. That's really what's happening at the core of it. He said it. He said, look, the resources of the US cannot sustain or support tens and tens of millions of immigrants coming into the country. So it's not only about illegal immigration, even legal migration or legal immigration, the channels have been really tightened. Just within a year, there's a lot of things that are being tightened. Okay. And now let me see here. You know that there was a shooting. 2 National Guard members were shot a day before Thanksgiving. This was done by an Afghan immigrant. And because of that, now all asylum applications are stopped. It doesn't matter where you're from. They've halted processing and green card, processing green card and citizenship applications and all immigration benefits from nationals of 19 high-risk countries. And there is now a retroactive review of already approved applications for those from 19 countries of concern who came in after Biden became president, I believe January 20th, 2021, or no, about that time. And Trump said he's also permanently pausing immigration from all third world countries to allow the US system to recover. And people have been asking, this permanently pause sounds like an oxymoron. Are you pausing immigration, which is a temporary thing, or you are permanently pausing? So which are you permanently stopping? Or you are just simply pausing immigration? We're not sure what President Trump means. He'll clarify with his actions. Okay, so that's it. I found the article very interesting. Okay, so that's the article. Let's talk about immigration enforcement during green card interviews. I have the leaked memo. I've had it for some weeks. I've been reviewing it, but I will not put it up here. I'm just going to tell you guys what they're looking out for. You guys have heard about the fact that USCIS is coordinating with ICE to detain or arrest some immigrants, and it's not all immigrants. Some immigrants during their immigration interview. So here's what's going on. Before your interview, USCIS is going to run your name through the fraud detection and national security. They will do some type of security and background vetting, and they'll identify concerns. When they say they'll identify concerns, if the government has questions about who you really are, do you have different names used somehow across documents, across agencies, in different places? Do you have different dates of birth? Did you give a different date of birth at the US Embassy, and your fingerprint now matches another date of birth you've given in the US? Your biographic details across your applications, use of aliases, multiple identities, inconsistent documents. If they are unable to verify your identity through fingerprints, photos, records, then they will pause your case or flag your case for this kind of enforcement. Okay, if you are a watch list match, meaning your information matches of either wholly or partially a name in a US government watch list. These are lists that are used for national security, terrorism screening, serious criminal or international enforcement concerns. A match may not necessarily mean you've done something wrong, but it will trigger an extra review on your case, and it can lead to coordination with other agencies to figure out what's going on. They'll look at CBP travel or border-related vetting issues. Here, they'll look at your past entries and exits, any encounters with CBP. Do you have any overstays and clear departure records? Do you have prior visa refusals or prior refusals of admission at a US port of entry? Do you have any expedited removal? Do you have any inconsistent travel history or inconsistent statements at the border? Do you have problems with your I-94, ESTA, or visa overuse? So when CBP is evaluating your intent, your credibility, your admissibility, they'll look at CBP data because they want to see how did you come in, what did you say? Was it at odds with what you actually came to do in the country? So you came in on a B visa. You told CBP that you were going to be living in Orlando. Records show that when you arrived, you were living in Virginia. You told CBP you're going to stay for 2 weeks, and records show you stayed for 5 months, 3 weeks. You left after 2 weeks, you came back, and then you stayed for 5 months, 3 weeks, 6 days, and then you applied for a green card. So those are things that they're going to be looking at just to track what's happening. Is there any credibility or admissibility issues? Then they'll look at the EARM system as well. If there's a hit with your name, that's the Enforcement Alert and Response Management System. It's an internal DHS enforcement system that they use to flag people for possible enforcement interest. Again, a hit can be related to prior immigration violations, prior removal or deportation orders, pending investigations, or enforcement priorities, ICE or other DHS component interest. So before you go for your interview, they run your name through all these systems. And please note that if your name comes up, like shows up as a hit on any of these systems, ultimately you may not necessarily end up being arrested, but it can cause processing delays. It can trigger additional background checks. It can lead to an interview. It can lead to a request for evidence. It can lead to enforcement coordination. It can result in a denial, and then they could refer you to ICE. So now, if you are identified through this process and flagged, after a little bit more review, if you are targeted as an enforcement interest, then there's going to be a spreadsheet created. You are put on the spreadsheet. So you will be entered into a facilitated apprehension spreadsheet. And these cases will then be, your case will then be assigned to a supervisory immigration services officer, CISO, for further analysis and review. Then ICE is going to, ICE, specifically the Enforcement and Removal Unit, ERO, that's a division in ICE that actually you see them going out and catching people and, just taking people off the street. That's the ERO unit of ICE. Not everybody in ICE is actually catching people off the streets, but the Enforcement and Removal Operations Division, those are the people that are out in the streets doing that job. Those people will review the list and they determine the cases they are interested in. ERO will notify ICE the individuals they want to monitor and act on. Then they'll schedule you for an interview, because they have to allow you to come so that it's easy to get you. Because not everybody can be caught off the street. So some people will be invited for interviews. Now, scheduling and field resources, SFR, they will assign the flagged interviews to immigration services officers, ISOs, and priority will be given to cases involving controlled review work, investigative work. Then they'll secure interview room in the field office. Some places could be third floor, second floor, whatever floor, depending on the office. So, because the arrest cannot happen in just any room. They assign specific rooms where the arrest can happen without interruption. Now, the assigned interview is entered into the ISO schedule. Then they'll put the interview time, your alien number, that's your alien registration number as an immigrant. Everybody gets that. Then the assigned room. Then it follows the same process used for routine controlled queue assignments, meaning the regular interviews follow the same process. Once this is done, the immigration services officer, ISO, they will receive an email notification that will contain your interview date, your time. Then the fraud unit analysis, the FDNS, they'll have the analysis there. Then they'll have the name of the supervisory immigration officer, CISO, who completed the analysis. Once they've done that, they will then remove the interview from the office tracking tool and ensure that your physical alien file contains your entire immigration records, your entire immigration history, and you have the right to pull it up from immigration. So please take note through a process called FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. We can help you do that, get all your records from immigration. Now, your file, that's your A file, physically will be routed to the correct location for the interview, because where you're going to have your interview, your file has to be sent there. Okay, so the A file has to be received by the ISO, all your physical A file. And you guys, recently, this week I was at the USCIS field offices in Fairfax, and my client had applied for a green card through the diversity visa lottery over 20 years ago. This was in 2004. The director of the Fairfax office, it's called the Washington field office, I believe it's the Fairfax office in Virginia, he went and pulled up my client's application form from over 20 years ago, visa lottery, and brought it into the interview room to discredit my client. The officer was telling the supervisor. So the officer, it was a really brutal interview. I need to probably even make a video about it because there's a lot of things I learned. The director, they are digging into a lot of fraud and they are not taking things lightly at all. They had those files, like whatever she had written in the application. It was like a cross-examination. So yeah, your A file will be taken into where you're going to be having your immigration interview so that the officer can review. Then they will look at, they'll prepare your case, they'll review it, and then 1 hour before your interview, then the supervisory chain, they'll set up a chat that will include the immigration service officer, the supervisory immigration service officer, the assistant field office director, and then supervisors. During that chat, while you are in the interview room, they'll be chatting. They have to update the group once you are brought into the office. And then they'll tell who's present. Is there an attorney present, an interpreter? Is there a family member? Number 2, they have to indicate on the chat to ICE and all these other supervisors, are there any health conditions on your case? Even on your I-693, any health conditions they should be aware of. Number 3, they will immediately inform the chat if the ISO, that's the immigration service officer interviewing you, if your case is not approvable. If your green card application cannot be approved, they'll tell them, look, this case is not approvable. Okay, now if it's not, remember that they have to be given real-time updates. The ISO has to inform the chat 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes from concluding the interview. They'll be sharing. Now, if they tell that, look, we have 5 minutes remaining, and ICE tells them, look, we need more time to send agents over, slow down. I told you guys, they will not be saying, okay, look, let me just double check this information. My system is going slow. Wait, let me verify. Give me a minute. I need to put this up. I need to scan this document to buy ICE time to arrive in the interviewing room. If ICE, and that's when ICE has determined that they want to arrest you, you're a person of interest, they walk to the office. ICE will then arrest you and lead you out. Now, if your case is approvable, then the interview will continue, be done, and then they'll mail you. Okay. Again, not obviously, and it's not, I don't believe that it's going to be many immigrants who are going to be arrested at all. This is going to be, a few, if you look at the percentage, but you have to be aware that if there's any concern in your file, and sometimes some people do have certain concerns in their files, but they are not aware. You want to rectify, because in detention center, it's very difficult to explain yourself. And some people call some of the detention centers freezer room. I'll tell you guys, winter, if you can avoid it, winter time, please. Oh, I should have taken this thing off the screen. I'm sorry. Please, winter time is not a good time to be detained by immigration. Winter time is not a good time to be detained by immigration. Even summertime, these detention centers and cells are freezing. It's just not a good place to be. I would recommend, and I would recommend that even if you are not using an attorney for your interview, because you think perhaps you feel like, oh, I have everything under control, that's fine. But at least do a consultation just to review a couple of things and make sure that you are clear to go for your interview. Okay. All right. Now let me see if we have a couple of questions today. We're going to close early. Obed Boama 854. What is the average cost attorney fees of adjustments of status at your firm? It depends. It depends. Just book a time with us and we'll discuss your case and let you know, what the strengths, what we can do to help you, and then we give you attorney fees depending on what we're going to be doing. It's not a one size fits all. And then we have this here. Chiki Zilla says, I have an appointment coming up for emergency parole travel documents at my local field office on Monday. It's been 7 months since my green card interview. Is it safe to travel abroad pending case? I mean, I won't be able to advise you responsibly whether it's safe to travel abroad without knowing more about you, which country you're from, how you came in, what kind of application you have pending, based on what you're, without understanding more. There's a lot more I have to understand about you to determine whether it's safe to travel. But, the parole document will always tell you this does not guarantee your entry into the United States, but that's many a times people are able to go and come back safely, but it depends on your personal history and background. Let me see if there's anything on TikTok that we can answer. If not, then we're gonna hop off really early. I don't feel too great, so I'm going to ask y'all's permission to fall out. Okay, someone says, how can I request a copy of my file from DHS? User on TikTok, please contact us and we'll do the FOIA for you. Nowadays, when you do the Freedom of Information Act, the government is redacting what we call redacting, meaning they cover or block a lot of the portions totally due to privacy rules. Sometimes some people request their records and they don't get the full records because they don't know how to request the records. So we can help you with that to make sure that we collect all your records for you. I tell people, if you're going into a fight, you want to know what your opponent has. If your opponent has a gun, then you can go with a shield, like a bulletproof shield, and perhaps another gun. But if he has water, then, you might want to go with a raincoat, right? But if he has something like fire, then you want to go in with water because your water can quench his fire. So it's important to know what the US government has about you in order to prepare your own case to face them. So I always recommend, even if you're a US citizen, make sure you have a copy of your own records in your possession. Okay, Chikitela, please contact us and we can discuss some more. And then I can give you, as I said, responsible, ethical, legal advice based on my reviews or inquiries. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is AK Poku, U.S. immigration attorney. If you need our help with any U.S. immigration matter, feel free to contact our offices. Please, if you guys have not given us a follow, you haven't subscribed, hit that follow button, subscribe to our channel. We post a lot of updates to keep you informed. Be sure to share our profiles with your family and friends. And hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Call us 802-780-0564. We represent immigrants in all 50 states in the US. We do meetings by phone call, by video, and in person. So it doesn't matter you're in Ohio or Texas, I can speak with you and I can give you proper direction and guidance based on your individual circumstances. Thank you all again for joining. I wish you guys have a great weekend. Hopefully I'll see y'all next. Oh my gosh, next week is 19th. Yes, I think right before Christmas. We may not be live. We might take a break, perhaps 2 weeks around Christmas, before and then after. We'll confirm. Just stay tuned on our social media pages and we'll confirm that. If you've enjoyed this session, don't forget to drop the emoji of the US flag again, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye.